Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to the Tyabji Show. I'm Michael Smyth, the political columnist for the Vancouver Province newspaper, filling in once again for Judy, who's taking a well-deserved break, and she'll be back with you on Monday. Today we're going to be talking about the lifeblood industry of British Columbia, and that, of course, is the forest industry. It's an industry that hasn't exactly been healthy lately. It's causing all kinds of problems for BC's economy, and also many problems for the British Columbia government. Premier Glenn Clark has placed a lot of political stock into creating jobs here in British Columbia in the forest industry. He's promised thousands of new jobs, many of which have not materialized so far. And we've also have the specter now of one of the most largest corporate bailouts in BC history, and that, of course, is the rescue of the Skeena cellulose pulp mill in Prince Rupert. Here's some background on the issue that we'll be talking about today.
Since Glenn Clark took over as Premier, the provincial government has made a number of announcements about forestry and jobs. Earlier this year, changes were announced to the Forest Practices Code, which were supposed to be friendly to the economy.
These changes will reduce unnecessary costs for industry and keep our forest sector competitive. If more jobs are created in the forest industry as a result, then that's an added bonus.
It will permit us to be more ground-orientated, so that people are on the ground making decisions on the ground.
The provincial government also signed a Forests and Timber Accord and promises more jobs through Forest Renewal BC. But the forest sector continues to lose jobs. Most recently, the Gold River Avenor Mill announced a shutdown due to the economic situation in Asia.
Well, it's tough, but we have to do what we have to do to conserve our cash and manage our inventories down. And we're working with our employees any way we can to assist them during this period.
The shutdown of the mill means that most of the 500 employees will be out of work as of Christmas Eve. These workers make up a quarter of the town's 2,200 residents. The mayor says the layoffs coincide with the upcoming moratorium on logging.
Terrible timing. It's Christmas time and everyone's supposed to be festive, but I don't think it's going to be that festive a season around here.
The Chamber of Commerce says the closure will hit the local economy hard.
It's been slow for the last 3-4 months, and this isn't going to help.
For centuries, the forests have been a source of timber and paychecks in British Columbia. But today, the forest sector is in trouble. When huge loads of raw BC timber, fresh from the forest, are loaded for export, BC jobs go with them. This is timber on its way to Japan, to be cut there, while mill workers watch, losing work time because there is not enough timber to keep their mills running. Jobs could be created tomorrow if the government licensed log salvage operators to pick up waste after the big forest companies have logged an area. The salvage operators say if they were allowed to go and get the wood left to rot, they could generate hundreds of jobs in a very short time without one extra tree hitting the ground. Meanwhile, the tables have been turned on BC's environmentalists as this year's protests from many small towns were against Greenpeace. This environmental economist says public support for green causes is declining for 2 reasons.
The unemployment rate in Canada, I think, is a lot of people concerned about the trade-off between jobs and the environment to the extent that there is one. And also I think that as we protect more and more land, the value of protecting additional land is reduced.
Meanwhile, the government continues to maintain there is no cause for alarm.
Those are some of the issues we'll be discussing today with our guests, in addition to the latest power plays and the struggles to save the Skeena cellulose pulp mill. And of course, we'll also be taking your calls at this telephone number. We'll be right back.
Mina, darling. This cheese casserole looks delicious. Exquisite. A new recipe?
Well, I changed the mozzarella with Emmental, the Gruyere with Swiss, the Colby with Gouda.
When you change the cheese, you change the taste, giving your meals a whole new bite.
And then I added salt and pepper. Oh, and a clove of garlic.
When you've got cheese, you've got choice.
This Christmas, McDonald's has gift-giving all wrapped up with 4 new Canadian Olympic watches, each with a 2-year warranty by TimeTech, a joint venture of Seiko. They're the stocking stuffers that will light up anyone's face.
No jelly salad. No lumpy gravy. No prehistoric fruitcake.
Introducing turkey strips, a turkey feast you'll really enjoy at McDonald's.
They'll make you smile. They'll make you laugh. You can't help but love these wacky babies. The cutest, funniest, most hilarious home video you have ever seen. Your whole family will fall for these cute, cuddly clowns. Wacky Babies is filmed by world-famous filmmaker Marty Stauffer. You've seen Marty's Wild America series on TV. Call now to order Wacky Babies through this special TV offer. Order now and you'll also receive Queen of the Ice, free. This special television offer is not available in stores. Your satisfaction is guaranteed. Call now.
Now available around the world from Interwood.
Have your credit card ready and call 1-800-937-0874 or send check or money order to the address on your screen. Call 1-800-937-0874 now.
Today's topic is BC's slumping forest industry and the government's massive efforts to try and stimulate the industry and to create jobs here in British Columbia, an effort which has largely been failing so far. We'll also be discussing the massive effort to save the Skeena cellulose pulp mill in Prince Rupert, which has turned into an enormous political controversy here in BC. And with me in the studio to discuss the BC forest industry, and especially the Skeena cellulose situation, extremely compelling political issue, are two of the top political commentators in the province. And I want to thank you both for being here. We have Les Lane from the Victoria Times Colonist, very fine columnist for that newspaper. Les, thanks a lot for coming in. And of course, Vaughn Palmer of the Vancouver Sun, probably the dean of the press gallery and widely respected.
Too young to be the dean.
Widely respected political commentator. And I thank you both for being here. Before we get into discussing BC forestry and the efforts to save Skeena cellulose, we want to give our viewers a little bit of background about what's exactly been happening with that pulp mill, because it is a very complex story, as we all know, and we have some graphics here to help us along. Here's a little background on Skeena. In June of this year, the Skeena pulp mill closed after Repap Industry walked away from it, leaving 2,500 people out of work. The TD Bank and the Royal Bank are owed a lot of money, and they take over the mill at that time. By September, the banks agree to write off $300 million in debt, and the government agrees to pour in more than $200 million. Also in September, the unions agree to a 10% wage rollback, and the government buys out the Royal Bank share for $31.5 million. A deal is then offered to unsecured creditors. They'll each be paid $10,000 up front, plus 10 cents on the dollar. The deal is you reject this offer or the mill will go broke. But just this month, the TD Bank and the BC government suddenly declared that $60 million of their previously secured debt is now classified as unsecured. Now, this allowed the bank and the government to vote against the other creditors and force the deal through. Many of the creditors claim they've been hijacked by this process. Now, just yesterday, the BC Supreme Court Justice Alan Thackeray calls for a second vote by unsecured creditors. And this time, the government and the TD Bank will not be allowed to participate in that vote. Now, as I said, a complex situation, quite a tangled web that we have to unravel here. But essentially, what we have is the largest employer in the hometown of the Deputy Premier on its last legs, that would be Dan Miller, and a desperate effort by the government to save that mill, apparently at any cost. Vaughn, how much money are taxpayers looking at to save this mill?
The last time we did the numbers, it was approaching $300 million. If the unsecured creditors manage to get a better deal, and it looks like they've now got the leverage to do that, I expect it will top $300 million, which I think makes it the biggest bailout of a private company in the province's history. Well, of course, it's no longer a private company because one of the things the government had to do was buy it in order to bail it out.
We essentially own the thing now.
Yeah.
So
we're in the forest industry whether we like it or not.
Yeah. Right. Les, what do you think about the government's efforts to do this? Is there a lot of politics being played in this, or is this a sound business decision, do you think?
Well, my heart goes out to the people in Prince Rupert and all the people who work in that mill, excuse me, and depend on it so much. But I think we went into this in July, August. It started falling apart, and the government went in with the best of intentions. But this deal has just gotten so stretched out of shape now that we're into uncharted territories in terms of $300 million. It's just an exorbitant amount of money for something, and there's a lot of experts in this industry who really question the validity of keeping this very antiquated, old mill going.
Yeah. How much do you think politics has played a role in this? Because obviously Dan Miller is the guy who's largely been calling the shots on this thing.
An obvious line, sure. It's his hometown. He's lived there. He's worked there. He represents the people there. It's an open question what would happen if this mill was situated in another riding. I think there's an element of that there.
And interestingly enough, the latest wrench in the machinery here came yesterday from the BC Supreme Court judge, who is now forcing a second vote on the entire package. Now what that means is the unsecured creditors in this deal could essentially veto the whole thing and we're back at square one. So Vaughn, this thing has just been an incredible mess just from the start, hasn't it?
It's been the worst handled negotiation I've ever seen of this kind. Let's assume that your position at the beginning is you're going to try to save the mill, but you know there's all these other players and you've got to bargain with them. Well, you don't go into town as Glenn Clark and Dan Miller did on September the 15th, when you've got about $120 million on the table, and announce you've done the deal. It's done, it's signed, sealed, delivered, victory is ours. They had a rally sponsored. The provincial government paid for a victory celebration in this deal on September the 15th. And they didn't have a deal when they did it. Right. Well, that's like putting up a big ad saying the sky's the limit in terms of a bailout. The unions have leaders, they're bargaining, the creditors are bargaining, and the banks are not pushovers, despite what Dan Miller told us back in September.
Yeah, the guy who says he knows more about business than the bankers.
Yeah, so the guy in charge of this has screwed it up. Yeah. Let's say that the mill was worth saving. The way they've handled it has ensured that we would pay a Cadillac price for, a mill that is at best a fixer-upper, right?
A broken down Ford or something.
Yeah. So they've yes, thanks for untangling the metaphor. Anyway, I think they've handled it badly. Even if you think the mill should be saved, the people in charge of this bailout are incompetent. They did a terrible, terrible job, the politicians, of negotiating this thing.
It does appear to be a conflict of interest, and right now we've got lots of phone calls coming in already. Let's see what some of our callers have to say about it. Let's speak to Robbie in Vancouver. Hello, Robbie.
Michael. Appreciate you being on here. I just a brief comment to the fact that I don't think the government should be involved at all in this matter. I grew up in the Powell River area around the pulp mill and realized that the only people who should be in it are private sector investors and people who can realize a genuine return on their investment, not just something political. And with that, I'll hang up and listen to your comments.
Okay, well, thanks very much for calling in. I guess the point is, should the government be getting into this, bailing out corporations? Now, there have been some success stories in the past. I know the NDP government in Ontario bailed out Algoma Steel several years ago, and that company is still running. It's still a controversial bailout. But on the other side of the coin, this trail is just littered with spectacular failures as well, everything from Massey Ferguson to there are several other examples as well. Yeah. And this one appears to have the makings of one of the worst boondoggles ever.
Well, if you were going to take over this mill and nurture it back to good health, you couldn't possibly pick a worse time to do it than right now. This industry, some of the experts in the industry are equating 1997-98 to the situation that BC was in 1982, which was an all-time recession. The markets have just gone bone dry. The prices have slumped. I think maybe half the mills on Vancouver Island are down for fairly extended periods of time, and the Asian turmoil in Japan and everything. It's just there is no place to make money in the pulp industry.
Yeah, the Asian markets especially have really hurt the industry, and as you say, a lot of people laid off right now at Christmas time.
I think the day after this last chapter of the bailout, or the latest chapter, they shut the mill down again for a couple of weeks because of the Japan market.
Yeah. Okay, John in Chilliwack. Hello, John.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, I don't agree that taxpayers' money go into the company.
Okay, why do you say that?
Why I say that?
Yeah.
Because they have a way high wages than regular employees already, And why should people pay more taxes with lower wages to those who have a higher wages already? And not just that. I was in a business too, and I was not.
Okay, well, John.
I was not the same kind of people, and the other two, they have a government grant, which is they don't need. They never work in company. They flying in first class airplane. They go in a holiday. They own the condominium. Excuse me, I'm nervous.
Okay, well, John, let me just...
in Florida and that, and we have to pay high taxes.
Okay,
can I tell out?
Go ahead.
Because bother me inside. And yet government go against us that we don't make money. We was not allowed to make money. We was only working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Okay, well, John, let's get a reaction from our guests. Obviously, you know, here's somebody who's very upset. He doesn't like the deal. He's referring to some of the well-paid labor at the Skeena Cellulose pulp mill. Now, that's a unionized workforce up there. In fact, Dan Miller used to be the president of the union up there, and there's a perception that the unionized workers at the mill have gotten a pretty cushy deal out of this, although they have accepted concessions as well. We shouldn't forget that.
Yeah, although I think an aspect of the government's intervention here, Mike, is related to the labor issue. You've got other pulp mills, the Fletcher Challenge mills in the province, that are being struck. And one of the issues there is whether or not we should adopt more flexible rules for running a pulp mill, the kind of rules that some of our competitors in Eastern Canada have, which will over time eliminate jobs. It'll eliminate positions because there's divisions of work among the workforce that would be broken down, and workers would be doing each other's jobs. So over time, you'd lose jobs in the plant. And that issue is there in BC, and I think one of the reasons the government stepped in and bailed out this mill is they don't want those concessions made. One of the things that the union and the company and the banks were discussing before the government got involved was some changes in the contract and some concessions. Right. Instead, you've now got the government stepping in with a straight subsidy for the workers in benefits and wages. It's about $28 million to protect them from having to make those concessions. And so I think there is a labor issue here, and you've got a labor government a pro-labor government that's making these concessions. That in effect is protecting the pulp industry in British Columbia from becoming more competitive with other Canadian mills, never mind the ones overseas.
Yeah, the business sense that seems to have been injected in this doesn't make a lot of sense. We've only got about 30 seconds before we have to go to a break, and we'll try one more phone call here. This is Jim in Nanaimo. Hello, Jim.
Hi, how you doing?
Hi, fine. You've only got a few seconds here.
Okay, I think the $300 million for the taxpayers' money is too much, and this is not the first time this mill has been helped. We can go back all the way to 1969 when it was turned over to the good old brick when Vanderzam was around. That was before Dan Miller even represented that. And I got to stay with Vaughn. You know, we got about 1,000 guys out in Crofton. Are the taxpayers going to bail this mill out too? And Miller's, Sane, and Clark were trying to get smelters in BC. Maybe we would have been better off to let that mill go. We might have had a better chance for a smelter instead of the last 30, 35 years, everything going to Kitimat up in that area.
Okay, Jim, thanks a lot. I'm going to have to cut you off there because we're just going to go to a break now. And when we come back, we're going to further discuss the issue with our guests, and we'll take more of your phone calls. Please stay with us.
Tyabji is brought to you in part by Metro Lexus Toyota, leaders in customer satisfaction.
Celebrate the season with a Dairy Queen frozen cake. It's the perfect dessert for a perfect time of year. So cool and so good. So make your next holiday gathering festive with a Dairy Queen frozen cake. They're decorated with cheer, and they're DQ through and through.
Merry Christmas, baby. Should it treat me nice?
Hi, sweetie. How's LA? Yeah, they took that there. Yeah, the place is looking fine. Pretty empty, though. Any chance You could hop on a plane. Be here for Christmas? Yeah. Yeah, I miss you too. There's someone at the door.
On the next Billy Graham television special, you'll hear musical guest Damaris Carbaugh and George Beverly Shea. Franklin Graham will share his encounter with Christ, and Billy Graham will speak on the topic, the value of a soul. All this on the next Billy Graham television special.
Billy Graham airs tonight at 7 on Check TV.
It's Christmas time at Woodgrove Center.
Santa is in the building 7 days a week from now till Christmas. Get photos with Santa, get your gifts wrapped, and take advantage of Woodgrove's extended holiday hours. There's more sounds of Christmas at Woodgrove Center.
We'll share the joys of the season. It's Christmas time and more at Woodgrove Center.
Welcome back to Tyabji. Today we're discussing BC's forest industry, and our guests are Vaughn Palmer of the Vancouver Sun and Les Lane of the Victoria Times Colonist. And I'm Mike Smyth of the Vancouver Province. So we've got all three of the major kind of political writers here in BC kind of trying to hash out the situation, especially the situation with the government bailout of the Skeena Cellulose pulp mill in Prince Rupert, which is turning into just a huge and quite an astonishing political conundrum for the government. And just briefly, I just want to talk a little bit about what happened yesterday in a BC Supreme Court room. Because after all of this grief, all of this heartache, and all the celebrations that you mentioned, Vaughn, it looks like now we could be back to square one. Because Judge Thackeray is saying we have to have another vote on this. Skeena's unsecured creditors, these are the small, generally sometimes smaller operations that supply that mill with everything from paper clips to who knows what else. They are very angry. They think they haven't received enough money. They're not being treated fairly. Now suddenly they've got the hammer in their hand, and they could scuttle this whole deal when they have a vote, and the vote is scheduled for the 29th of December, which is this Monday.
Yeah, the small operators, I mean, put yourself in their position. A lot of these are little logging companies. They supply wood to the mill. There's a taxi company in there. There's all, as you say, all kinds of suppliers. And they've been dealing for a long time with a company that wasn't paying its bills. But the company is also the only game in town. It's the only big forest company in the region. So their choice was to, say pay your bills, and they weren't paying their bills, but you want to keep your own workers employed. So you keep, in a sense, extend them credit.
Right.
You get to the end of this process, and the union leaders are standing there with their hands out. They get $28 million. The banks get, we can add it up. There's going to be $170 million to modernize the mill. Everyone's gotten a piece of the action, right. And then they tell the small creditors, you're going to get 5 cents on the dollar. Then they get generous. They say 10 cents on the dollar. A lot of these little operators, if they get 10 cents on the dollar, they're going to go under. They can't turn to their banks and get their banks to take 10 cents on the dollar.
But
and then the government comes in and steamrollers them. They say, we're an unsecured creditor too, and so is the TD Bank. Well, come on. They're not in the same league as all these little operators, but they ramrod the vote using their financial clout, because essentially in a creditor vote, dollars vote. It's how much money you're owed. The vote's not how many individuals there are. They ramrod it through, and the judges said, that's not fair.
Right.
You go back and hold a legitimate vote among the unsecured creditors, and if you're an unsecured creditor, everyone else has got a piece of the action. Why should you have to take 10 cents on the dollar?
Right. A pretty gutsy move by the judge. But the other situation, Les, is if even if these creditors do vote this deal down, don't they end up with nothing anyway?
Well,
because
that's one thing.
The pulp mill goes bankrupt.
Yeah, I'm not quite clear on their options, and I think it's because they don't have any. They take the $10,000 up front and 10 cents on the dollar.
Yeah.
But they don't like that, obviously. It's insulting.
But their options are, they appear to be trying to put pressure on the government to get more money out of it.
They're trying to get more money, but there's been no limit on this deal so far. The sky's been the limit, but I think we might be approaching some kind of limit now, and there doesn't seem to be any impetus on the government side to recognize this scattering of independent contractors, because they don't seem to have the clout in this deal.
Right. Well,
the takeover, the conversion of the government, the bank's debt from secured to unsecured is completely unprecedented, and I think a a measure of just how desperate they are to hold this thing together.
Desperation seems to be the word that always comes to mind when we talk about this issue. Let's go back to the phone lines and speak to Ken in Powell River.
Hi there, Michael and Vaughn. How are you doing today? And season's greetings to you. I think you should know that the Skeena Cellulose Mill undercut a major contract to the mill in Gold River. The Skeena Cellulose Mill had bid on this contract and took 2 months work away from the mill in Gold River, and the taxpayers of British Columbia are supporting that. And in talking about my community of Powell River, we have a major pulp mill here, and here in Powell River, the Skeena Cellulose Mill is challenging the M&B mill here with our taxpayers' dollars, you know. And the M&B is in a very serious state, and it's just because of this NDP government's neglect. And I would like to know where the Minister of Forest has been all during this crisis, you know. We haven't seen hide or heard from him, and it's because of their ridiculous stumpage rates that the forest industry is in this mess to begin with, you know. And I'm just disgusted with this NDP government.
Okay, Ken, thank you very much for calling in.
That kind
Obviously,
of
there's
issue,
an angry call.
That's going to come up over and over again. The idea that, I mean, step back and look, a provincial government owning a pulp mill in this province is, there's just so many situations that are rife for conflicts of interest left, right, and center, and conflicts in terms of fair competition between all the other mills in BC. I think you were writing something last weekend about this mill's been on the worst polluters list for 11 of the last 18 times.
Well, yeah, I mean, that could be a real whirlwind against the
now that the BC government owns it, are they going to keep putting it on the list? Are they going to fix it up? Are they going to sue themselves, or what? There's ludicrous situations developing.
I think what we have to watch for in that situation is whether the government may relax its previous commitment to clean up pulp mills in BC, particularly a deadline of the year 2002 for zero chlorine emissions. Now we own one of the worst polluting pulp mills in the province. Are they going to keep their promise on that, Vaughn?
Or if the Powell River Mill is the next one on the sick list, is it on the sick list because they bailed out the mill that should have gone under? If there are too many pulp mills in the province, have they bailed out one mill simply to consign another one to the death list?
Right. Okay, well, thanks a lot, Vaughn, and we'll be right back to further discuss this issue and take more of your calls right after this break.
When you need to stop a cough, get fast-acting, long-lasting relief with Vicks Formula 44. One dose coats your cough-irritated throat to start soothing in 5 minutes and can last through the night. For fast-acting, long-lasting relief, get Vicks Formula 44.
Your skin's natural exfoliation process slows down as you get older, and that's why your skin can start to look dull. So how can you help revive the process? A solution was presented at a World Dermatology Conference, beta-hydroxy. Now part of this advanced Olay moisturizer, this formula helps stimulate the skin's natural exfoliation process to help leave your skin glowing with renewed radiance. And the name? New Daily Renewal Cream from Oil of Olay. Proof we can help you look younger.
Are you brushing twice a day? You could be ruining your hair. It's true. A simple act of brushing can break your hair. The solution? Pantene Pro V shampoo and conditioner to help keep your hair strong so it breaks less. Pantene Pro V for hair so healthy looking it shines.
Here she is, Miss Center of the Universe.
Here's a cheesy moment you might want to miss. And here's one you don't. So, go get some crackers, apple jelly, and cheddar cheese. Put the cheese on the crackers, spoon on the apple jelly. Voila! You can't get any cheesier. Well, then again, maybe you can. This cheesy moment is just a reminder. When you've got cheese, you've got choice.
A fairy tale jewel. Alberta Ballet's The Nutcracker, coming to Victoria's Royal Theatre, December 27th to 29th. For tickets, call 386-6121. Impressive, exquisite, a must-see.
No jelly salad. No lumpy gravy. No prehistoric fruitcake. Introducing turkey strips, a turkey feast you'll really enjoy at McDonald's.
Welcome back. Today's question, what do you think of the state of the BC forest industry? What's wrong and what could be done to improve things? Here's some of your thoughts on that.
Oh, good question. I'm not an expert, but what I've heard so far, it seems that the government's choking the industry off with a lot of their new legislations and core program and new stumpage rates and stuff like that. They're not emphasizing don't export raw products, like make more jobs, make finished products, more value added for the industry. Hopefully that'd help fix some of the problems.
I think stumpage is the biggest problem right now, and the low price of the pulp is hurting the industry. There's got to be some changes.
What could be done to improve things, you think?
They're going to have to look at the stumpage problem for starters, and I think there's going to be some change in the government. I think there's some big problems there.
First of all, I'd say that probably the biggest thing is the mechanization of the forest industry. It's taken away a lot of the jobs from the people on the ground level. That's basically it. That's the big problem I see.
Had a lot of people talking about in that segment about some of their ideas for improving the performance of the industry. One theme that keeps coming up, of course, is stumpage, which is what the government charges the forest companies to log on Crown land. The companies say the government's charging too much for that, and that's one of the problems. But how much do you think the government's to blame for the state of the industry right now, which is pretty bad shape?
I was looking at a speech from the Council of Forest Industries. 92 to 96, the industry's cost of getting timber has gone up 77%. 3/4 of that is government taxation, stumpage, and whatnot.
Right.
But I think the thing that you sort of tend to forget once in a while is that the NDP didn't just walk in and impose these massive new levies and new stumpage charges. They were forced into it by the American lumber producers who were fighting this or trying to get our timber headed for the U.S.
In a trade war.
They had no option on this thing, and I think we were giving our timber away for a long time, so they forced us to charge for it, and then they forced us again. We've piled up a lot of costs in fairly short order.
Okay, let's speak to Reg in Port Alberni. Hello, Reg.
Hello, Michael.
Hi, how are you today?
Very good. How are you guys there?
I'm great. I understand you're with the IWA.
Yes, I'm vice chairman of the publicity committee in Port Alberni here.
Okay.
We have a petition going around right now to, if the M&B is not going to provide jobs for people, then perhaps the government should take the TFL away from them. And we're getting very good response on that. We have over 80 businesses signed up and over 1,000 people.
Well, maybe you could explain that a bit to us. What's your plan there? What are you asking the government for?
Okay, I'll read the petition. That M&B's plans for operations in TFL 44 are to downsize further, that we request that the government take back TFL 44 and award it to a company committed to a community-based jobs and community stability. That tree farm license holders may be made accountable to communities via legislated tenure reform. The terms of reference for tree farm licenses must be revised to provide for community-based job opportunities and economic stability for resource-based communities, and right now they're not providing that.
Well, you know, obviously the NDP has traditionally been friendly to your union, but it sounds like you feel like you've been let down.
Well, I tell you, 1 out of 2 people I talk to says, when's the recall petition going to be here? Our MLA is just not accountable here.
Boy, recall, that keeps coming up again and again. Reg, thanks a lot for calling in. We're going to speak now to Greg in Cobble Hill. Hi, Greg.
Hi. Yeah, recall sounds really good.
Yeah, and why do you say that? You think the government's let the industry down?
Well, good example, like the gentleman was saying earlier, like Fletcher Challenge up here. It's a real modern mill. They spent probably $1 billion on it a few years ago to upgrade the pollution standards on it. And here we are. We started the strike back in was it 15th of July or something?
Right.
And I don't even work there. I'm in the construction industry, but we just saw it just go downhill right from there, and now it's not working at all.
No, but what do you blame the government for in this mix? Why do you want to recall your MLA because of that?
Well, I think it's a labor thing with this government. It's just they're so close that there's no room for the middle people in this province anymore. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's just, high time, like the gentleman was saying about the 81 recession, that we keep going this way. It's just going to be this exact same thing like the old cement plant here at Bremerton. You go look at that. That's a sign of the old 81, 82 recession, and that's the way the mill of Crofton is going to end up. We keep going this way.
Okay, well, Greg, thanks a lot for calling in. I just want to take one more call before we discuss that, and this is Yoniker in Campbell River. Hello, Yanniker.
Oh, hello, it's Yannicka.
Yannicka, I'm sorry.
Okay, there's been several callers ahead of you mention about Fletcher Challenge, and I just wanted to say that in yesterday's Courier Islander, an article by Dan McLennan, the headline reads, Fletcher Challenge cancels strikers' benefits. And the Fletcher Challenge said they can no longer handle the load of what is now being $3 million in health and medical benefits since the strike started. And they can't handle the load for that, and yet the government is willing to bail out Skeena Cellulose at, what is it $300 million?
Potentially that much, yes.
So it's kind of an irony here that the government is expecting the common taxpayer to back a company which eventually or essentially is going to compete with the main employer in Camel River.
Okay, Yannicka, thanks a lot for your call.
Thank you.
Great. Les?
It goes back to it. A government owning a pulp mill in this province doesn't make a shred of sense. I can see them, with all the goodwill in the world, they went in to rescue it, but a long-term ownership by the government is just unworkable.
But on the other hand, don't you, if you let that mill go down, you've got a devastating situation in that region of the province, and I think what the government's saying is things will be worse. We'll be worse off if we let the thing go down in terms of unemployment and all the misery that flows from that.
Well, I'm fascinated to hear a caller here today. The anger coming in is interesting, and you've had people blaming the unions, and then you have a caller from the IWA in Alberni saying he wants to recall his MLA because he's not listening. And this is the Labour government, the Labour Party. I think, Mike, that, look, they're getting a hit from all sides on their forest policy. Their big forest initiative of this year was supposed to be to create jobs, to create 40,000 jobs in the industry. Instead, they don't seem to have a plan to save the ones they have.
Yeah, it's 40,000 jobs by the year 2000, I believe. Was that the original promise?
20 direct, 20 indirect, over 5 years.
Which looks like pie in the sky right
Just
now.
a target, said the forest minister. We didn't say we were going to hit it.
Right, they're backing off on that promise now. So let's speak to Archie, who's been waiting patiently on line 6 from White Rock.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Archie. How are you?
It's a pleasure to talk to Conrad's dutiful nattering nabobs of negativism here. The only positive comments I ever hear from you guys are about Alberta. So let's compare Skeena with Whitecourt. The Alberta government put $250 million into that. Now, is that bad or is that good?
Well, I'm not totally familiar with that case. Now, is that a successful bailout you're speaking about, I assume?
Well, I don't know. They gave the money to that Miller family, and there you go.
Yeah.
The Alberta government poured hundreds of millions of dollars into ill-advised bailouts in the 1980. I would agree with the caller on that. I don't know how recent this one is, but a lot of the earlier ones are very questionable. And they ended up with a lot of white elephants in Alberta, too.
Right. In his first term, am I still there?
Yes, you are, Archie. Go ahead.
In his first term, Klein gave $3.5 billion took $3.5 billion from social programs. In his second term, he gave $3.5 billion to big business.
And he's got a $2 billion.
Is that bad?
Well, he's got a $2 billion surplus, and he's traveling around Alberta right now talking to people about what to do with that money.
The surplus came from cutting the social programs.
Well, I mean, you can make arguments back and forth, but I'll tell you one thing. This NDP government would love to have a $2 billion surplus right now, and I don't see how they're going to get it if they're going to spend $300 million bailing out a bankrupt pulp mill, and also one that's one of the worst polluters in the province that we've already discussed that. We're going to take a break right now. We'll be back with more of your phone calls and more with our guests. Stay with us.
This man just got something he's always wanted, a new deck. And here's how he got it. Because with Time Life's decks, porches, and patios, he found out how to get professional results at do-it-yourself prices, just by following the easy at-a-glance instructions.
Now get 2 books for $2 with Time Life's Home Repair and Improvement. Order decks, porches, and patios for just $1.99 and get kitchens free.
This couple just got something new for their kitchen, custom countertops. Because with Time Life's Kitchens volume, they knew exactly how to measure and cut for a beautiful fit. And they got it free.
You can too. Use your credit card to order decks for just $1.99 and get kitchens free.
Listen to the sounds of savings, because every time you open a home repair book, you'll find dozens and dozens of ways to add comfort and value to your home. It could be new kitchen cabinets, a hidden recycling bin, a new ceiling fan, tile backsplash, even a screened-in porch. Time Life's Home Repair sets the standard for step-by-step do-it-yourself help. So whether you're refinishing an old floor or installing a new one, patching concrete or creating a brick walkway, replacing fixtures or an entire bath, you'll get complete step-by-step do-it-yourself help for results you'll be proud of.
So why not get started today? Have your credit card ready and call now to order decks for just $1.99 and get kitchens absolutely free. That's 2 books for $2.
These folks are getting a new brick patio. What are you going to get? Call now.
Call 1-800-328-0550 to get 2 books for $2. Use your credit card to order decks for just $1.99 and you'll get kitchens free. That's 1-800-328-0550 or send check or money order to Home Repair, Department 28, Richmond, Virginia. Or call 1-800-328-0550.
Welcome back to the program. I'm Mike Smyth from the Vancouver Province newspaper, sitting in this week for Judy Tyabji, and we're talking with Vaughn Palmer of the Vancouver Sun and Les Lane of the Victoria Times Colonist about the lifeblood industry here in British Columbia, the forest industry, and some of the tough times it's been going through lately. I know we have a lot of people who have been waiting patiently on the phones, so we're going to get to them now, and we're going to speak to Norm in Victoria.
Hi there.
Hi, Norm.
I'll just okay. First of all, it's our governments, and I say it starts off with the federal government, and it tells the provincial government what they can do and what they cannot do, and then if they okay all these here lending out money to bring all these companies to keep going, and it just falls back on the taxpayers, because after a year after they get all the money, or maybe 2, and all of a sudden they're out of business, and the bank is the one that profits all the money. And then why don't they stop all this here raw products leaving the province? They like Japan and stuff, I understand they are sinking. All the logs that are taken over there, they're sinking most of them and keeping them underwater so that they won't deteriorate. And things like this here, if we made sure it was a finished product that goes out of here, then we would have lots of jobs for people, probably millions, because it goes down the line all the way through. And like I say, when it comes to the stumpage and stuff, I don't know, the government just let the big companies just get away with all this stuff for not even, not making them pay. Like when you see a company like Fletcher Challenger, one of them, saying, okay, this year, we lost 30 million. Because last year they only made 80 million, and this year they only made 50 million, and they said they lost 30 million, which is a load of crap,
Well, thanks a lot for your call. And, there have been successive governments, not just this one, have been talking about increasing BC's share of value-added products. In other words, instead of shipping raw, unfinished logs to Japan or anywhere else, we keep the timber here and we make furniture or door frames or what have you. And obviously that makes just perfect sense to keep more money. But how come we can't do this? People have been talking about this for years.
It makes perfect sense, and it's the logical thing to do. But there must be something that we don't know about it that makes it a lot tougher to do, because it's just there's a lot of examples where people have tried this in BC and gone under.
Well, obviously the Asian markets have a lot to do with it for Vaughn for failing to accomplish that goal.
Well, they have actually. Over time, we've reduced the amount of raw material we're exporting. And in fact, we've reached a stage now where we have such a shortage of raw material that we're actually importing wood from as far away as Saskatchewan. I didn't even know they had wood there.
What a concept.
Ignorant I am.
Did you know that Saskatchewan and several other jurisdictions in Canada, such as Eastern Canada, are actually kicking our butts on the forest industry right now? Which is astonishing.
You mentioned the comparison, Mike, at the beginning between the recession of the late 70s, early 80s. The difference, there's one difference now, which is then we were one of the low-cost producers. We were very competitive, and now the government itself admits that the combination of all this regulation and taxes and everything has made us one of the high-cost producers. So instead of being the last in line to lose the market, we're now first in line to lose the market.
Yeah.
And so I think, the blow we're going to take over the next year, I expect we haven't heard the end of the bad news about the industry.
When we came out of the 82 recession also, and you do come out of these things, and we're not talking about anything too permanent, although it might be fairly long term, but when we came out in 82, I have a vivid memory of the Chemainus Mill up Island completely restructuring, modernizing and upgrading, and coming out when things picked up again I think they're producing almost twice as much lumber with almost half the employees. So the mechanization that I think someone referred to earlier, it's very serious. There just aren't the jobs in this industry that there used to be.
Right, and it's a shame what's happening. I mean, when New Brunswick is doing better than us on forestry, I think there's something wrong. But let's speak to Jean in Victoria. Hello, Jean.
Hello.
Hi.
I wonder how many people realize what the stumpage is. The trees on Crown land belong to not the NDP government, but they belong to the people of British Columbia. In order to cut a tree, you have to pay for it. So these people cut trees, and they're charged a stumpage fee.
Right.
Now, is that right? Isn't that what it's for?
That's exactly correct, yes.
So why do they object to paying it? Do they want them for free?
I'm sure they would love that, but
Well,
obviously
they can't have it. They belong to the people.
But
No,
if
they
they
can't.
didn't have to, if we sold all of our wood products in British Columbia, we could charge whatever we wanted for stumpage because we're only selling to ourselves. Because we have to compete with Swedes and Albertans and New Brunswickers and Indonesians and Brazilians, we have to care whether or not our prices are higher than anybody else's. And most of the surveys that have come out in the last year have emphasized that we are now one of the most expensive places in the world to process forest products. And that's why they're upset about the stumpage. It's a factor in the cost of producing finished wood products.
Right. We just only got a minute before we go to another break, and we're going to speak to Scott in Richmond. Hi, Scott.
Hi. Everybody talks as though the only jobs in timber are union IWA jobs. And one of the biggest sins I see this government making is the total ignorance, ignoring, turning your back on the small outfits, the family outfits, the outfits with 10 or 12 guys who could probably take up the slack from a lot of these IWA jobs, but God forbid anybody leave a union job.
Right.
God forbid this government do anything to help small business. The timber market isn't any different than any other market. Having many small businesses is much preferable than having one large mill that can
Scott,
go under like this.
I'm just going to cut you off there. Thanks for your call, because we're going to have another break, and when we come back, we're going to continue our discussion and more of your phone calls, so stay with us.
On the next Billy Graham television special, you'll hear musical guest Damaris Carbaugh and George Beverly Shea. Franklin Graham will share his encounter with Christ, and Billy Graham will speak on the topic, the value of a soul. All this on the next Billy Graham television special.
Billy Graham airs tonight at 7 on Check TV.
When you need to stop a cough, get fast-acting, long-lasting relief with Vicks Formula 44. One dose coats your cough-irritated throat to start soothing in 5 minutes and can last through the night. For fast-acting, long-lasting relief, get Vicks Formula 44.
Are you brushing twice a day? You could be ruining your hair. It's true. The simple act of brushing can strip away vital protein, even cause your hair to break. The solution? Pantene Pro V shampoo and conditioner to help keep your hair strong. Pantene's provitamins penetrate the root, while the conditioning formula helps improve the entire length of your hair to help keep it healthy looking, shiny and strong, so it breaks less. Pantene Pro V, for hair so healthy looking it shines. Don't forget to brush.
Imagine great hold that feels healthy. Introducing new Pantene Hairspray with Elastase, a new flexible holding ingredient. Unlike some hairsprays that can be sticky, this new Pantene holds without all that stickiness. Try this new Pantene Hairspray with Elastase.
Let your Victoria Symphony bring drama, excitement, and romance to your life.
Experience classic grandeur with conductor Rafi Armenian and violin soloist Moishe Hammer performing Mozart's Violin Concerto No. 5 at the Royal Theatre, Sunday, January 11th and Monday, January 12th. Call 386-6121 for your tickets.
Your Victoria Symphony, you'll love to hear us play.
Coming up tomorrow in the program, we'll be talking about a green Christmas, and we'll have hints for you on how to have an environmentally friendly Yuletide. On Christmas Day, oh, too bad, there'll be no show on Christmas Day because we're all going to be busy opening presents and having fun. On Boxing Day, there will be a repeat of the Justice Denied program, and that will be with your regular host, Judy Tyabji. And I'm Mike Smyth of the Vancouver Province, filling in for Judy, who's on holiday this week. And Judy will be back live in this chair on Monday, and I guess everyone will be relieved when that happens. Well, we've been discussing the BC forest industry today and some of the problems that the forest industry has been having. Usually the heartbeat industry here in BC, and boy, they've been having a lot of problems. And the calls have been reflecting some of the frustrations people have been feeling about this. And we'll go to one now, and we're going to speak to Gary in Qualicum Beach.
Hello.
Hello, Gary.
How you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Not too bad.
Good.
Unemployed like the rest of us.
Are you a forest worker?
You bet.
Okay.
The one thing that I really got a bone against is the mechanization of the forest industry here. It's putting us all out of work. 15 years ago, I could get in my pickup and drive to Prince George and be working in the morning as a faller. Now, if you want to go up there and be a faller, you got to have $500,000 faller buncher to go to work with that takes the place of 15 men. Boston Bar, Jones Brothers Sawmills, just went mechanized. They put a brand new mill in there, updated everything. They had a workforce of over 200 people, and it only takes 60 people to run that mill now. Like, there's processors that process the wood, so one processor is going to take 10 buckers out of the workplace, and that's the whole province is going that way, and everybody's getting laid off. And it's been happening for years now. And mechanization, sure, it's good for the companies, but what about us?
Well, you know, there's a lot of people in the same shoes as you, especially right now at Christmas time when it really hurts, because there's been a lot of mills that have been shutting down either partially or completely right now. And I thank you very much, Gary, for calling in.
But it's just not right now.
Yeah, well, it's been happening for a while.
It's been happening over the years, and it's mechanization that's putting us out of work.
Right. Okay, thanks for calling. Les, you touched on that point earlier.
Yeah. Gary, I worked in Port Alberni for a brief couple of summers in the mill there, and the fellows I worked with, young guys, married, little babies, big trucks, boats in the driveway. They had great jobs, and they enjoyed it, and I just wonder, you know, what's come along to take up the slack, because those kind of jobs and people in those kind of circumstances, they're just not around anymore, and it's happened so gradually over the last 15, 20 years.
Yeah. Especially on the island, though, it seems a lot of communities are really hurting on the island.
Yeah, the mechanization, and what drives it, I guess, is just the global market that everybody talks about all the time.
Right.
There's no fighting it.
No. Norm in Vancouver. Hello, Norm.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, I just wanted to talk about the reasons why we are not producing finished wooden products.
Sure.
One of the main reasons is that the NDP are all about big government and high taxes, strong unions, and they're somewhat anti-trade within Canada for sure. And corporations just don't want to invest into BC. They're afraid of the unions. And I think we're losing a lot of jobs. We have the highest unemployment rate east of Quebec. And it's not getting any better, and it's not going to get any better if we continue on with the current government, with the way they're treating businesses.
You think they've just shown too much favoritism to the unions, and that's turned off business here in BC?
Yeah, they basically don't want to invest. They're scared to. If you wanted to open up a corporation, you want weak unions. Like if you want to invest into a province, you want weak unions, and you want low taxes. And without corporations, without small businesses, medium businesses, there are no jobs, because that's where jobs come from. And basically, if it doesn't look good for you, well, there's no point in opening up a company. And Glenn Clark, he used to be a leader of a union, so why would anyone want to open up a business when the leader of the province is anti-business?
Okay, Norm, thanks very much for calling in. I don't think he was a leader of a union. He had a short stint as an organizer with the iron workers. I think it was part of a summer job. I think actually his experience in the union movement has been overly romanticized, I think, by the New Democrats. But certainly, I mean, Vaughn, you've written plenty about the government's allegiance to the trade union movement in BC.
But Clark ran for office in 1996, and he said, we're going to do things differently. He said, I believe in doing things differently. I reject the North American consensus about economic development. I believe you can be pro-union and have strong unions. You can be high tax and heavy regulation, and the government's going to spend lots of money investing, and that will work. So we're in the middle of an experiment. Is he right? Well, the results aren't great so far, but he's only been in for 18 months. So the caller is right. I mean, it's fair to judge Glenn Clark on the results so far, but keep in mind that it's only the beginning. And he is trying to do something here in BC that not many other governments are trying to do. You know, Skeena Cellulose bailout is a break with what other governments do. Heavy unionization is a break with what other governments do. High taxes is a break. So we'll see.
All right. We're going to try and get one last call in here, and it's Dwight in Surrey. Hello, Dwight.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah,
you have to make
just
it quick,
calling.
okay?
I'm sorry?
You'll have to make it quick.
Yeah. Well, I'm one of the unsecured creditors, and I just find it flabbergasting that they are unwilling to negotiate with us. They're just saying, take it or leave it, or we'll run over you like a bulldozer. If we were a union, they get 90%. We get sweet dick all. You know, because we're the private industry, we're third-class citizens. We don't belong to a big government union. That's about the bottom line.
Dwight, thank you very much for calling in. He used a little graphic language to reflect his frustration. And obviously, the bailout process that's going on with Skeena Cellulose is really angering a lot of people. A lot of the small creditors, like the fellow that just called in right now, feel extremely angry about how this has been done. Yeah, we're going to just say goodbye now to Vaughn and Les, unfortunately. But I want to thank you both for coming in. Vaughn Palmer of the Vancouver Sun and Les Lane of the Victoria Times Colonist. We covered a lot of ground here, and I thank you both for coming in. Merry Christmas to both of you. If you want to reach us, here's how you can do it. Write to Tyabji, 780 Kings Road, Victoria, BC, V8T5A2. The fax number is area code 250-389-1226. You can email Judy at tyabji@wic.ca. And the show has an excellent web address. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. It's superb. It's www.checktv.com. And we'll be back right after this break.
What do you get with Amigo Digital? Every month you get 100 anytime minutes and 100 first incoming minutes free.
Yeah, I'm free.
You get call display.
Staying in touch doesn't mean staying in.
And oh yeah, there's no long-term contract.
I call the shots.
And you get it all for just $19.95 a month. Amigo Digital. It goes with you.
Not every child's Christmas is filled with warm memories and dreams coming true. But you can change this by visiting your local Dairy Queen and picking up an Angels Anonymous card. Return it with an unwrapped gift, and the Salvation Army will see that it finds the right child on Christmas Eve. With your generosity, you'll be among thousands of people who'll be giving unfortunate children exactly the same gift, a reason to smile. Angels Anonymous, a Christmas wish from BCTV and Dairy Queen.
When should you plant geranium cuttings? What's the only time of year to safely move peonies? How long can live Christmas trees remain indoors? Get answers to these and other questions by ordering the Get Up and Grow Gardening Guide and Calendar for 1998. Gord Nickel, host of the Get Up and Grow TV show, has compiled over 360 useful tips to help novices and green thumbs alike succeed in the garden. All of this timely information has been combined with rich botanical illustrations to give you an invaluable resource.
Hi, I'm Gord Nickel, host of Get Up and Grow, seen every Saturday morning on Check TV. Order the Get Up and Grow Gardening Guide and Calendar now, and you'll receive a Forget-Me-Not seed package at no extra cost.
To order your gardening guide and calendar, send $12.99 plus $2 shipping and handling to the address on your screen, or call 1-888-456-5577 and have your credit card handy. The guide is also available at Canner Nursery in Victoria, Abbotsford, and Chilliwack. Call now and get growing in 1998.
Tomorrow on the program, we'll be talking about a green Christmas. We're going to be providing you with some tips on how to have an environmentally friendly holiday season, and that should be real interesting. A lot of people concerned about the environment, and we'll be showing you some ways that you can do that over the holidays. I want to thank you very much for tuning in today. We spoke about the lifeblood industry of here in BC, the forest industry. You know, the NDP government in the 1970s bailed out a pulp mill in Ocean Falls, BC. The town turned into a ghost town. We can only hope that that doesn't happen with the Prince Rupert mill and Skeena Cellulose. Let's keep our fingers crossed that the government isn't taking too big of a gamble with this bailout. Thanks a lot for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.